I cannot believe I'm making this video, but about 2 minutes ago, the government actually passed the bill that would allow the government to ban TikTok. So this is kind of one of those situations where it's like the guy that cried wolf, nobody thought it was going to happen, and it happened. And the speed at which it happened is so alarming because it takes months and months to even get aid for people when there's a hurricane. But somehow the gremlins in Congress just really got together and finally they agreed on something. Like after decades and decades, the Republicans and the Democrats finally agreed that they do not want the peasants having power, and they don't want us having important conversations, and most importantly, they don't want us to have the ability to threaten the money of their donors. So why is this happening? Well, that's exactly the reason. We don't have a government, and also full disclosure, I'm Canadian, but I'm still annoyed because if it gets banned in America, the app might as well be dead. This is so crazy. So first of all, what's going to happen next? So it just passed the House of Representatives, which means it's going to go to the Senate, and it will 100% be passed in the Senate. Because if you thought that there were old farts in the House of Representatives, the people in the Senate have been there for like 45 years. Like they don't have term limits. They literally will be there. Like people clutch onto those Senate seats until their dying breath. It's actually insane. So it will go to the Senate, and then it will land on Joe Biden's desk, at which point Joe Biden has the choice to sign it into law or to veto it, which would be great if he vetoed it, but that is extremely unlikely because one, he already said that he will sign it into law, and two, typically the executive branch, the president, isn't going to veto a bill because that's sort of like circumventing the whole democratic process. Not that this is democratic whatsoever, but it's very likely to pass. And it's honestly so insane because all of the data for TikTok is already stored within an American company. It's really not an issue. The main issue, really, I believe, is that the government has lost the gatekeepers where they can simply feed us information and we all accept it because it's the only information we have. They tell us something about Ukraine or tell us something about Palestine, and then we see videos from the actual places themselves that completely contradict that, and we create our own opinions. And our ability to mobilize in large groups is extremely terrifying to them. Like, that's what we really need to understand. The government is actually gotten to a point that they are terrified of our ability to have conversations and mobilize for causes. I mean, the amount of companies that we've boycotted. And by the way, these companies like Kellogg's and Starbucks, do you know how many millions and millions of dollars that they spend lobbying people in the government and going at it from a business perspective as well? Companies will not spend 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million a year in lobbying costs unless there's a direct return on investment for them. And that return on investment for them is getting policy written into law that directly benefits them. So yeah, absolutely. If TikTok goes away tomorrow, we're not going to have the ability to mobilize in the same way because the government has a lot more control over Instagram and Facebook than they do TikTok, which is why we see a lot more unfiltered content on TikTok and everything on Instagram and Facebook is very muted and the engagement is much lower and it's just not as genuine of a conversation. So this is actually insane. Like, someone can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm obviously not a policy expert and I'm Canadian. I'm just looking at this from an outside observer, but this is definitely the most serious that it's ever gotten. And I was pretty alarmed. Like, I was watching the live feed of the votes. Like, it was overwhelming. Like, people overwhelmingly voted yes. They decided on this for months and really like sped through it. So it's crazy. I think that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, if you're watching this, you guys better tread very, very carefully because you're already so unpopular amongst Gen Z and younger people. If you do this, you are greatly underestimating how much it's going to piss people off. And not only will people stay home, but they will vote for the other side. I almost want to predict that if Joe Biden signs this into law and TikTok ends up getting banned, I want to predict that Donald Trump will win, because of how much I think it will piss people off. And then I think Donald Trump will probably capitalize on it, even though he's he's dumb too, and they're all dumb. And he wanted to ban TikTok as well, but he doesn't care about that. He'll just do whatever's convenient and say that he disagrees with it. He'll even say, hey, I'll bring TikTok back, and then he'll probably become president again. So anyway, I don't really like posting political stuff, but it might be the last video I ever post. So that's kind of disappointing for me, because my videos just started to take off a little, you know what I mean? So I was really excited about the video I was going to post, which is the downfall of people you can guess based on that. So I think that honestly, I might just start posting on YouTube, because I think I'm just gonna jump ship. I'm gonna start posting on YouTube. So if you've liked any of my downfall videos and you wanna see them in a little bit of a longer form context, where we go into even more detail and have it more be like a podcast format, where if I do it on YouTube, maybe I could release it on Spotify as well. So it's a little bit longer and you can listen to it in your car. Full disclosure, I've never posted a YouTube video. I'll include the link in my bio if you want to go subscribe to it. Obviously, you're subscribing to someone with no subscribers and no videos yet, but I promise if you do subscribe, I'll definitely get on that and start making the content that I guess that you guys like to see. And I guess I'm jumping ship, because things are going to change regardless. Maybe if the app doesn't get completely banned outright, I do think that it's going to drastically change, and it will have to be divested into another company, and then that company will probably have a lot more control, and we'll see algorithm and policy changes that really ends up making the app a lot more similar to Instagram and Facebook, and maybe ultimately just dying and going bankrupt. I have no idea what the future holds, but this is very telling, and all you government representatives, beware, because you just told on yourselves about where your priorities are, and it is so sad.